What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with NIO stock, what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a few more tickers, what the news is saying about NIO, and what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I begin the devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's happening to NIO. Looking at NIO, this thing gapped down very nicely and managed to break below critical support at this $6 area up here. This thing did start pushing as the day went on before it just came back down to just chop and chop and chop. And we ended up closing below $6, which is another sign of weakness. So the question is, how will NIO move going forward? Is NIO going to get a nice balance, or is this thing just going to continue to sell off? I'll be talking more about this as time goes on. But first, let's talk about the market. So I just want to remind you all. Let's first talk about this before the earnings. For tomorrow, watch for some volatility at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the Richmond Fed manufacturing numbers coming out and the manufacturing of shipments. This is going to be very important considering what's happening with manufacturing across the globe and the global shipments. And this is also going to be important when it comes to like looking at how the overall economy is looking, how manufacturing numbers are looking, not to mention the services data. That's going to be important for future projections as well. So watch and see how this is looking. Do we get stronger numbers than expected or not? Besides that, we have the bill auctions coming out again and the 2-year note auction at 11:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. It's all very minor data besides the 10 a.m. data, so watch for volatility at that time. Besides that, I just want to mention that for earnings, we have United coming out very soon, Logitech and just a couple of others. We'll be watching that, especially going into tomorrow. We're still waiting for those. But then when it comes to earnings, we have Netflix coming out for tomorrow, alongside like Verizon before the market opens. For Wednesday, we're gonna have AT&T in the morning, not to mention Tesla and IBM after market close, and then we just have a couple more as time goes on. But that's gonna be very minor. Tesla's going to be very important. However, that's going to be the most important one for Wednesday. As far as NIO goes, they're actually putting on their Twitter page something about the ES6 as it's being able to just voyage across Norway. That is something that's very important and worth noting because NIO is very lucrative, very adaptive, and they're all over the world. They're going to be going global, and I still believe in their future and their vision. But one thing that has been of a concern is the fact that registrations have been dropping for the first few weeks of the year. Now, historically, this is actually normal because, when the new year starts, that's after the whole holiday session. We tend to not get as many sales, especially approaching Chinese New Year. But as we approach the first few weeks of the year, things will improve. So just got to give it some time historically. But at the same time, correlation does not mean causation. So it might not just be the historical trend. There's also a lot of talk and a lot of fear about the global EV sales slowing down. And it's not just affecting NIO, this is affecting Tesla and every EV company out there. This is what has led to lots of these EVs resorting to cutting prices to bring back competition. And this has led to some price wars, which has been a little bit negative. It's getting a lot of negative light. Now, as far as NIO goes, we have some news that came out that NIO is offering incentives for owners to share 100 kilowatt hour long range battery packs ahead of the Lunar New Year travel rush. That tends to happen in China between February 10th and February 17th as the Chinese New Year holiday is coming up. Now, this is important because they're basically encouraging owners of vehicles with 100-kilometer long range battery packs to share their batteries as the travel rush approaches. It's just going to give them a lot more points if they do plan on doing that. If not, it's also just their choice. So it's just an option they have out there. They're also going to credit people about $2.80, not bad per day. That's for and 2 points per day on top of that if they end up sharing their long range battery packs. It's something that can be very nice, very friendly. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. Besides that, people could earn up to about 27,000 worth of NIO credits if they participate in the program, which is once again very useful. So this could lead to a lot of benefits for people if they're willing to just come in because of the big travel rush that's coming. And besides that, NIO is also going to be charging more to make more money. Besides that, there's more news coming out. NIO beefs up marketing as funny video goes viral. This is very important because it's showing the ES8's driving capabilities. There's a funny video that had come out. It's titled "Being a Good Agent Starts with Choosing a Good Car," and that's already gone viral for the ES8. Excuse me, guys. That's once again very good for them. Besides that, it's not no significant piece of news. There's more news coming out about how NIO is down about for 12 straight days on pace for a record losing streak. So that's been very, very negative for them. They've even lost the $6 support, which is another big sign of weakness. If anything, there is some support at 5.8, but the support's getting tighter and tighter. Uh, we're getting very close to the record. It's been very bad for them. Just a lot of drops over and over again. This is actually just noting what's been going on. That is very, very bad for now, and that has more to do with just external factors and other stocks out there. But before we throw hands and say NIO is down, it's this and that, don't forget something very important. Look at Tesla on the daily, okay? Tesla was at 265 back on December 28th. When we started the year, this was in the 250s. Now it's barely at 200. So, not trying to be a jerk when I say that, but the truth is, Tesla and the entire EV market is taking a hit right now because of the recessionary fears and slowing demand and other issues like that, which are leading to more costs. It's really hurting the company's margins for the short term and their fundamentals. So, it's very important for me to go over this. One of the things that's important about this is that it's going to affect NIO, and NIO is just following a trend. Now, Bank of America was the last to downgrade NIO, giving it a neutral rating. The price price ratio has been dropping like crazy right here on the right. And on top of this, when it comes to seasonality, we tend to see volatility on Tuesdays and also on Wednesdays. Not to mention, hourly seasonality shows noon, 2 p.m., and then like the last trading hour of the day. That's when we tend to see even more volatility. So we'll be watching those very, very carefully. Besides that, I think that it's very important to note that volume is at 74 million, which is well above average. It's a little bit above average, so it's dropping on like somewhat high volume, which is not too great for NIO because the short volume relative to price has been going up. So we're seeing more shorting going on. Not the best of news. It's still looking very weak. So what do I see for the share price for NIO? There is this unfilled gap up here, but we need to see NIO try to close at least above 6.2. That's where we have this resistance right here to get back up towards that 6.35 area. So the levels are very tight. If we're bearish, you want to see it basically lose this low right here. So instead of treating 5.86 as support, I actually went a little bit lower towards 5.8. If we lose 5.8, it's going to be coming down to 5.66 and 5.5. So 5.5 is really, really possible just based off our levels alone. But on the daily time frame, I just want to note that NIO is looking kind of bearish. It's been selling off quite a bit, and there could be an attempt for it to retest 6.25 before it comes back down, but it's still looking very, very weak. It's been downtrending pretty hard. There's no sign of it breaking above, the key resistance. We have to break 6.31 and close above that for this thing to reverse. We haven't done that quite yet, so we have to be patient. What about for SPY? We have a potential rejection candle on the daily time frame. We might see this come down a little bit more before it tries to bounce higher. So watch that very, very carefully. On the 4 hour time frame, we're kind of turning a little bit. We have a possible head and shoulders, excuse me, also forming on the 5 minute time frame. So, in my opinion, this looks very sideways, at least for now. Even a little bit stationary. There's a risk of it coming down just a little bit. Could retrace towards 482 and then try to bounce. So you can see a little bit of a drop, but it still could bounce later on. So I'm not officially a big bear. I just think that there is a risk of a little retracement that could be coming. As far as Tesla goes, it looks kind of bearish. I mean, it's been downtrending quite a bit. It's continuing to make lower highs and lower lows. So in the morning, look for a little bounce attempt, a back test of about 213, followed by a rejection is what I'm basically anticipating. I think that Tesla's going to be slowly making its way down towards 205. If that fails us, we have even lower levels coming. As far as Apple goes, Apple's been pushing. It's still holding up decently, but you have to be careful because we have some tight resistance between 194.4 and 195. If we reject there, we're going to be looking for a retracement towards 189, so watch that very carefully. There's a risk of that happening. As far as the QQQ goes, if we reject here, we start turning, watch for 416. There is a risk of this coming down. Looking a little bit weaker than SPY, so watch this very carefully. There could be some downside coming. On NVIDIA also has a risk of a little bit of a drop coming. It actually closed just at 596.5. We'll see if it holds above the 5 EMA or not. If it breaks this 590 is a real possibility, followed by 582. So what do I see for NIO? Considering all of this, in my opinion, we might see NIO actually try to push back up towards 6.23 and then reject and come back down to 5.8 and just trade very sideways and shop around for some time. I don't think it's ready to bounce yet, but in the future, I think there is still a little potential for it to do that, especially thanks to Tesla's earnings. That's going to have a big effect on NIO. So we'll be watching that very carefully. But if anything, there might be a little pop when we open, followed by a drop as time goes on. Lots of choppy price action. I think NIO could retest 6.2, come back down, and just trade sideways. Still close very flat, and we'll have to see how it goes from there. But because we close below $6, that opens more room for downside potential. So we could like go up to 6.2, come back down to 5.8, and just trade sideways. I think we're going to be stuck between that range throughout the day. But overall, the share price is still looking very weak, not looking strong, and we're going to be very patient for now. I want to note, guys, that I know what you're going through. It can be very stressful, very hard to see the share price just sinking like this. But you have to remember that NEO fundamentally has been doing a lot of things right. What's difficult would be the current macroeconomic environment, the hardships that are happening externally, and the things that are outside of NEO's control, which it can't really change. So they can't control the current interest rate environment. They can't control what's happening across the globe. They can't control the hardships happening to China and other countries out there. So the best thing to do is be patient, be prepared for more downside, and then don't forget that this is another buying opportunity for the long term. I still believe in the long term technology with autonomous driving, battery swapping, and such. I believe they're going to go global, and I don't think that Abu Dhabi made a bad decision by buying billions into NEO. I think that it's going to pay off in the long term, and that's what they're here for. So be patient, do what you have to do, guys. I thank you all for listening, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you, and peace out.